All right, welcome to another episode of Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com. I am Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist Mac Engel, and as you can tell, that especially handsome man on the other side of the screen is not my colleague, Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr., but instead we are graced with the presence of the pride of the University of North Carolina football and basketball team, Mr. Fourth and Long, Jesse Holley. Jesse, looking good, young man. How are we feeling these days?
I'm feeling good, man. I just turned 39. I'm feeling young and feeling fresh, and I'm a little scruffy this morning, but it's all good, man. Life is good. I'm happy. It's a great day. It's a good day. It's a great day to have a great
day. 39. I remember that. Actually, I don't. But want to really appreciate you stepping in this week because I do want to take a quick second to give a shout out to my colleague, Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr., who can't join us this week for Cowboys Overtime. Unfortunately, Clarence's father has passed. Clarence is a great guy and he's a great son. He took care of his dad for a long time. And Clarence has had kind of a rough year. The last couple of years, he lost his mom and his dad. And so he is with his family right now. And certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to Clarence and his family and all the families and all the family and friends of his father and that family. And hopefully Clarence can get back when it's his time to rejoin us here on Cowboys Overtime. So this is the last week, Jesse, of football that we will have for several months, and then we will all go into an extended state of depression. But the one thing that the Dallas Cowboys will always do, even though they're not playing games, is make headlines. And they did it again. The Dallas Cowboys have hired a new offensive coordinator, a guy who has been around forever. And he is the son of football. Not royalty. That's too much to say about Marty Schottenheimer. Marty was a really good NFL coach for a long, long time. Brian Schottenheimer will be the Dallas Cowboys' new offensive coordinator under Mike McCarthy. Jesse, what do you make of this hire? I mean, I have my own thoughts, but what do you think of Brian Schottenheimer as Mike McCarthy's offensive coordinator?
Well, here's the thing that, and I'm sure you've done the same thing as well, but kind of just digging around and calling some folks that we know over in Cowboy country. My biggest concern was trying to figure out, okay, is Brian going to be the play calling offensive coordinator, or is he going to be the practice and game planning offensive coordinator? And from my reaching out to a bunch of people, it's come back to me that Brian's going to be more so of, hey, you're going to run the day-to-day things at practice, kind of head up some of these meetings and, help formulate the game plan. Oh, but on Sundays, that's going to be Mike McCarthy calling the plays. And so the one thing I'm looking forward to, because, this is a great thing that we can do as media pundits, is that we can start in the off season and we can project in all these different things, but we don't know. Like we don't know. We don't know what the language and what they're trying to bring to Dak Prescott. I did think Dak Prescott needed a new voice. I did think that. I thought Dak Prescott and Kellen Moore, that was a little too close in peer-to-peer relationship than coach-to-peer relationship. And I just thought that Kellen Moore was a little bit too tentative to push the envelope on challenging Dak Prescott because of, you think about it, those two guys basically, I wouldn't say came up together, but they shared the meeting room together, right, earlier in their career. And so
they were players together. They were peers. They were peers.
And so when Kellen Moore got the opportunity to be the OC, I thought that relationship was still kind of peery, right? Peer-to-peer type situation. So hopefully now there's kind of that little bit of structure where, hey, I'm here and you're the player, and that what I say kind of goes in this situation. We'll collaborate. But I don't know. I don't know, because you can look at and say, well, here's what Brian Schottenheimer did over here and did with that person and that person. But it's like a relationship. Right? You can be with one woman today and it's the absolute worst relationship ever. The chemistry is not there. The compatibility is not there. And then you go and find your soulmate, and everything that was once looked at and frowned upon by this other relationship is now adored and loved by this new relationship. So nobody knows. Nobody knows, and that's the gift of us being able to see this thing come into fruition. So,
Before I ask you this follow-up question regarding Brian Schottenheimer, I want to make sure I give a shout out to the people who sponsor this Cowboys Overtime, Window Nation. Thank you very much, Window Nation. That's not a cue to go to break, by the way. But you mentioned what role Brian Schottenheimer is going to do, and it sounds to me like he's all like Jesse. It sounds to me like he's almost, I don't want to say an advisor, but he doesn't really sound like an offensive coordinator. He sounds like an assistant to the offensive coordinator, and that's Mike McCarthy. Does that sound right? Does that function that way on an NFL sideline and in a meeting room?
as long as they're clear, and this is the thing that's different from being on the outside and being on the inside, right? Because to us, a lot of it is hearsay, speculation, because we're not sitting in the meeting room. We do have advantages of having a relationship with people who are sitting in the meeting room.
Yeah.
As long as that line is very, very distinctive to the players, because the players need to know. I need to know as a wide receiver, I need to know where my cue is coming from. Mike McCarthy needs to make it very clear from day one. Hey guys, this is my show. Okay. The old is gone, the new have come. But I'm going to be assisted by Brian Schottenheimer, right? There needs
Jesse,
not.
how does that work? I mean, I know what you're talking about, delineating between one and the other. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But in this case, what's the player, the receiver, the running back? What's he going to Brian Schottenheimer for? What's he going to Brian Schottenheimer for? If Mike McCarthy's ultimately calling play,
he becomes more kind of like a liaison, right? So sometimes you have players. Normally, you go to your position coach. You're like, "Hey, coach, listen, man, we should run these routes, man. These routes are really, or coach, this play." And your coach kind of brings it back to the meeting room. But this situation, now you're going to Brian Schottenheimer. You're saying, "Hey, coach, listen, man, on these third downs, I'm telling you, we should really do these." And now Brian can take those things back to Mike McCarthy, and they can somehow collaborate. It's one of those things where if Mike is still going to be the overall head coach, and he's still going to run all the things that come along, personnel and practice planning, all that kind of stuff that comes along with being a head coach, you kind of just need that you got to delegate some of those responsibilities for the day-to-day stuff, the meeting stuff, the practice stuff. And then behind, with the coaches, they're game planning, and it doesn't like that was always a thing that I would kind of get upset with people sometimes because they thought that this was just this meritocracy when it comes down to Kellen Moore is going to call a play that Kellen Moore wanted to call in the game. I don't care how many times that he got that Mike McCarthy got on the headset. If Kellen Moore is the one who's pulling the trigger on game day, you're not going to be able to stop him from calling the play that we want to play.
You don't think Mike McCarthy ever pulled the trump card and like, no, we're not doing that, Kellen. I love you, and we're not doing that.
No.
I'll be damned. All right, then that leads me to my next question. This is all about making Dak Prescott a better quarterback, a more efficient passer, especially in those games where he hasn't been as good. We're talking about playoff games. He's obviously really good. Do you think this is going to have – do you think Brian Schottenheimer on the sidelines is going to have that much of an impact on number 4?
I'm you know me, and I'm never the guy who kind of rides the fence, right? I'm very, very definitive with my answer. It's either I'm all in or I'm not. But the thing is, what I think is going to help Dak Prescott, if this all works out in the best case scenario, it's the offense that Mike is going to implement and that Brian is going to coach up Dak in, is an offense that doesn't lead Dak Prescott to have to try to beat a lot of different zone coverages with man routes. And let me explain that a little bit further. One of the biggest issues that I had with this offense this year, and again, we live in this internet age, and everyone has access to film, and everyone has access to this and that, and everyone wants to be this. And I don't get into it. A lot of people have what, but sometimes there's a ton of people who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about. And that offense that they ran a year ago, and it goes back to the Michael Irvin days, right? This is why guys were like so prevalent on having a number 1 wide receiver. because in that type of offense, you needed a number one receiver to beat man-to-man coverage in order for that offense to be successful. Well, this offense never evolved and changed in being and having multiple facets within the offense. So what ended up happening is, you go back and you watch the film, teams are just starting to play more zone against the Cowboys. Everybody's going to play zone, but we'll make Dak Prescott have to read through 7 and 8 guys. Well, what made it difficult for Dak was if he guessed wrong or read wrong, the play was shot because everyone was running a man route. So I run down and I stop and I do my route. And if it's covered, it's covered. Now I don't have time, or it's not built in for me to be able to read coverages and route concepts to beat anything that we're facing.
So you're saying, Jesse, hang on, I want to interrupt you. So you're saying it's not his inability to see it. You're saying the option wasn't even there.
The options were very limited in what he had to deal with. Like if he's in the kitchen chefing it up, and you just got peanut butter and jelly, good luck trying to make a 5-star meal, right? Like you just make the best peanut butter and jelly you can, and sometimes that's not satisfying enough. And when you get into these games where these defenses and these defensive players are so complex and so athletic and so fast, when you don't have multiple options within to put yourself in the best position, you sometimes begin to take what is given to you and you may get away with it. And that's the offensive part, right? Now, the culpability on Dak's part is I have this thing where I say these are arrogant throws, right? An arrogant throw, you'll see Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, guys that make these arrogant throws. He goes, but you're not supposed to make that throw. That's an arrogant throw, but they have the talented enough arm to make the arrogant throw. But in reality, the ball's not supposed to go there. And so when Dak would have some of these arrogant throws, everybody would be like, oh, see, he's elite and he can put the ball anywhere in the field and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, but the ball's not supposed to go there. And what ends up happening with arrogant throws, and especially when you don't have the superb arm talent to fit those throws in there, you begin to believe that those arrogant throws are the throw that you're supposed to make all the time. And what you saw with Dak Prescott in last year's season was he was throwing the ball into places that had no business going there. And it became an issue. It became a problem because now he's trying to overcome, knowing that Kellen's going to call this bland offense. So I need to go and make a huge play right now. Ball shouldn't go there. Even though you got it in the first quarter, well, that defense recognizes it. They understand. The Cowboys, since I was playing, we used to line up and they would be like, oh, here come Harvey routes. Here come the Harvey. Here come the comeback. I'm like, damn, they do know the route. Because they study film too. Like those guys get paid to watch tendencies just like the offense is paid to watch tendencies. And that marriage just didn't work to success. I mean, relatively speaking, it worked in the successive part of the numbers. But when it came down to winning those tough games, you saw the mistakes show up.
All right, we got a couple more things to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime. But before we do that, I want to take a word to hear from the good people at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right. Thank you very much, Window Nation. Back here on StarTelegram.com for another episode of Cowboys Overtime, joined by Mr. Fourth and Long himself, Mr. Jesse Holley. Jesse, I love this. Last week at the Senior Bowl, Jerry Jones and the cast of I was going to say something mean, but I'm not going to say that. The brain trust of the Dallas Cowboys met with the media, and Jerry Jones was asked about the production at wide receiver this season, and specifically whether or not he regretted trading Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for what was essentially amounts to a bucket of used footballs.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones says, no, I don't regret trading Amari Cooper, but we didn't replace his production. That's Jerry speaking out of both sides of his mouth, which he's very good at. My experience covering Jerry, Jesse, Jerry will admit the mistake but it will take several seasons for him to come out and say, yeah, that one didn't work out. He's not going to own this one right away because Amari's still in the league, Dak's still in the league, all that's still sort of ongoing. You and I both know it was a mistake trading Amari Cooper, that they didn't like him. This wasn't about money. They just didn't like him as a football player. They didn't like his personality. Same problem he had with the Raiders. Bottom line, was it a huge mistake trading Amari Cooper? Did that kill this offense ultimately in the game against San Francisco when nobody was open?
Yeah. And you hit it right on the head. Accountability at times from Jerry Jones can be one of those things that doesn't come right away. It'll come a couple of years from now. Mm-hmm. But the same thing, Jerry gambled on the same thing that required him to go get Amari Cooper. They went by this wide receiver by committee thing, and yes, you had CeeDee Lamb, but you gambled on a 3rd round pick from
South Alabama.
You gambled on Dennis Houston. You gambled on a guy in James Washington who was nothing more than a guy, in Pittsburgh, and all of these things. You gambled on Michael Gallup coming back off an ACL injury, and while he was medically cleared to play, if everyone knows that it's going to take at least a year for that person to get back to where, like take the Adrian Peterson aspect out of ACL injuries and throw that away. Like that was
the outlier of outliers.
Outlier from a dude to come back from an ACL in 9 months and then rush for 2,000 yards. Like, don't think that anymore. That's I don't care what modern medicine says, and maybe 20 years from now it'll be. But and so and Jerry, who's a risk taker in a sense when it comes to the business portion of things for him, he gambled. He gambled on his $40 million quarterback being better than trying to elevate his game and being better than he was. Remember, you guys remember in training camp, everyone was, Dennis Houston is this, and Jalen Tolbert is that, and they're making all this. And I'm just like, okay, all right, that's fine. But what happens when the guys got that early go out there and play? And he was wrong. He was wrong, and it cost him. And I think
hang on, Jesse, we're blaming Jerry for that one.
Yes.
I blame Mike McCarthy for that one. I blame Mike McCarthy for it because I think Jerry, when it comes to Amari Cooper, Jerry was going to do whatever Mike and probably Steven advised him to do. And they made it about money. They made it about the salary cap. And in my estimation, if you look at Mike McCarthy's background, is not that much different than John Gruden. John Gruden didn't like Amari Cooper either, for all the same reasons. Not because Amari Cooper's a bad guy. He's not. He's a good guy. He's really smart. But Amari Cooper had other interests beyond football. And that's what those guys were alienated about. Yeah, I know it didn't help the fact that Amari Cooper was not reticent, but he wouldn't take the COVID shot. And that alienated people within the Cowboys organization. I understand that. But it was the other part. If Jerry Jones, I think if Mike McCarthy says, no, we can deal with this, we got to have Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's here. He's taking bullets from Mike. That's what I think about Amari Cooper. Agree or disagree?
I disagree. I think, as you know, when Jerry decides to do something, the biggest mistake was, I think Jerry made it personal. And anytime you make business and anytime you take personal kind of feelings in a business type of situation, it usually doesn't work out well in the end. Right. And that's the thing about for Jerry. Like you've been in this game far too long with billions of dollars, and making an emotional personal decision can be detrimental to the success of what you want to do. There's some time where you got to just bite the bullet and go, I don't like it personally, but business-wise, it makes sense. And I think Jerry got to that point where he just said, because Amari is one of those guys where the thing about Amari is he's a quiet guy outwardly, but when Amari speaks very loudly personally. And he was taking jabs at the Cowboys. He was taking jabs at the way the offense was being called. And you and I both know when it comes to there are salaries that coaches, there's salary amount when it comes to players that the Cowboys coaches get to deal with. And then there's those who are at a point where Jerry makes the decisions, right? There are certain guys where, I go back to when I was playing with Felix Jones, and I remember Jason Garrett comes out and he fumbled like a kickoff or something like that, or whatever it was, he fumbled and Jason Garrett is saying, he's not playing, and da-da-da-da, we're going to make that. And then the same day, Jerry comes back and says, he'll be there on Sunday.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? Like, you remember?
Yes.
There's players
He
like
just totally undercut his coach.
But as a player, you understood that. As a player, when I got released, the coach released me. When Dez gets released, it's the Joneses. There's a certain level of caliber of players that Jerry deals with. When your number is high enough, when your per year number is high enough, Jerry makes the decision on those guys. When your number's down here, everyone else gets a chance to have a say-so and stuff.
Okay, well, that leads us into our next topic because you hit on it in terms of there are certain numbers where it's Jerry and Steven, and then there are other numbers where it's the coach. This one's going to be the Joneses, and that is the status of running back Ezekiel Elliott. Now, last week when Jerry and Steven met with the media in Mobile, Alabama, everybody's coming back, right? Tyron Smith's coming back. Jason Peters is coming back. And Ezekiel Elliott is coming back. The only one who's not coming back is the kicker. It's the kicker's fault. Jerry said, we're going to get a new kicker. But Jerry said, no, I love that. And I was like, this classic Cowboys. We got to have a new kicker, man. We can't trust this guy. A running back who shot, he's coming back. Right tackle who can't play anymore, he's coming back. Jason Peters, everybody's coming back, but not that kicker. We don't want to put him. So now Jerry says, we want Zeke back. Okay. Then Steven says, we want Zeke back. But he also says, we got to make sure the numbers work, which for me says, he's not coming back. But the Cowboys are in February, and, in February, everybody's coming back. What do you think? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There are certain guys, this is a Jerry Steven call, Charlotte, Rowdy, everybody else. And the other ones are like, Mike, what do you think? Okay. In my estimation, as good as Zeke was, they ran him into the ground. He got the second contract. He's a good player. He's a great pro, busted his butt, and it's not there anymore. I can't see, even at a reduced number, him coming back, despite what the Cowboys are saying. What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, it's when you deal with Jerry and you deal with Steven, it's always really in between the lines with a lot of their stuff. It's you're so definitive on the kicker, and here it is, a running back who, and they even said I didn't see the drop off. If you didn't see the drop off, then we have far bigger problems in your evaluation of talent. Like if you didn't see a drop off, and I like Zeke. All right, I like Zeke personally as a person, and he did a great job in his prime of playing. But as my grandmother used to say, don't pee in my eye and tell me it's raining. Don't come out and tell me that you didn't see a drop off in Zeke Elliott from what he was 4 years ago. Because now I'm going to question your evaluation of talent.
For sure.
Yeah, but this is the way that they, one of the things that the Cowboys have to do now, they have to play this media thing because we're entering now that offseason, and I need free agents to feel some kind of way. So it's get rid of the kicker because the kicker doesn't matter, right? But
totally expendable.
It's totally expendable. But when other free agents are looking at the Cowboys and seeing how they're treating veteran guys or guys who are maybe a little bit up there in age, it's kind of saying like, all right, how are you treating the guys who may be on their tail end? Are you kicking them out? Now there's history of them doing things like that before, but it's just media play, right? And honestly, unless Zeke takes a huge roll cut and pay cut, I don't think you can bring him back. But the Joneses in the past have kind of loved certain players, right? They'll latch on to a guy and they'll love a certain player, but I'll just keep my ear to the street on that one because as we get closer and closer and closer to deadline time, we'll see if the narrative changes. All right, I'm old enough to remember when Jerry and Stephen Jones defended Dez Bryant for his sometimes antics and said that's passion and that's love and what we want. And then when they got done with them and were tied on it was a distraction and it was so the narrative changed. The same thing that happened before, you called it passion and motivation, and you wanted 52 guys to have that. But then when you were ready to get rid of them and you needed to have that media spin from the fans and say, oh yeah, that's a distraction and it's hurting our team, you flipped it. So keep your ear to the streets on that one. But I don't think you can bring. I don't think you can bring guys like Zeke. I think Tyron is a guy who you got to say, hey, Tyron, listen. When Terrence Steele comes back, you will either be the swing tackle. You're going to leave the young boy over Tyler Smith at left tackle.
Yep.
Terrence will come back and play right tackle. You will back either one of those guys up, or you'll find a new address. Simple and plain.
The Zeke thing, the thing that I hope they do for his sake is they don't let him twist in the wind the way they did Des Bryant, because the Cowboys are going to move on their own timeline. And you talk about players and free agency and how they treat it. At the end of the day, their leverage is their leverage. And Zeke, when Zeke had it, he was smart enough to squeeze it. I can't see him coming back. I just can't. Last thing I'm going to ask you real quick on Cowboys Overtime. Got to make a prediction. Super Bowl is coming up. Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, a million storylines, the Andy Reid Bowl, the Kelsey Bowl. Who's your winner, Philly
Chiefs.
or Kansas City?
Chiefs.
Chiefs?
Chiefs.
Easy enough. All right.
It won't be close. It won't be close.
Really?
It won't be close.
All right. Jesse, I really want to thank you for taking the time this morning to join us here on Cowboys Overtime. You're a great pro and a great guy. All good things about the University of North Carolina. You represent, young man. Happy 39th birthday. You look 38. I want to thank the good people at Window Nation for sponsoring this episode.
Let me ask you a question. Does Window Nation fix window seals? My puppy bit my window seal in my office. I have a 10-month-old Connie Corso, 115-pound Connie Corso.
115-pound puppy?
Yeah.
That's a horse.
Yeah, and he bit my window seal in my office. And I'm like, how do I replace a window? I've never replaced a window seal.
All right, let's find out. We'll get Window Nation. Help us out. Help out Mr. Fourth and Long. We got to go. Jesse, thanks so much. We'll catch up with you again soon. For all your Cowboys coverage needs, check us out on StarTelegram.com. We'll catch you next week.